91% individual traders are losing money. So in FY24, they lost 61,000 crores, excluding transaction costs. And that 61,000 crores has been transferred to the prop trading firms and the FPIs. With Sahi, one of the things that we thought we can really focus on is how do we level the playing field? How do we bring some of the professional platform capabilities to the individual? So this analysis tool also reacts to real-time market data and changes direction. And then once you see that direction, then you go into this single screen trading experience. For the first time ever, you can see both the index chart and the option chart on the same screen. And most importantly, you can just tap on the chart and you can trade right from there.
One choice which I keep speaking about a lot whenever I talk to people about Sahi is our choice to build the charts. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an obvious thing to do. The bold decision is pricing. We decided we'd do it at 10 rupees an order. I personally pushed back to you a few times back in the day. Welcome. You could name this podcast Vaz meets Vas. Happy? Welcome to the Day One podcast. This is actually a conversation I'm super excited to do, and I've been thinking about this for a while. In fact, I feel every one of the times we meet for coffee, Dale, or we spend a meeting, our meetings always run over.
Yeah.
I almost have a habit now of putting a little Dale buffer every time I meet you. So hopefully we'll be in time for this podcast. But super excited to have Dale with me, who's the CEO and co-founder of Sahi. Sahi is building high-performance trading products, focusing on the Indian market. And we partnered with them since day zero, and super excited to have you here, Dale.
Thanks, Vas. Super excited to be here. It's great to be talking to Elevation and also talking to our users through the podcast.
Super. So, I'll start with the first question I asked you when we met. Does India need another broker, another trading app, another investing app? What made you do this? You've been super successful so far. What made you jump into this market?
Yeah, I think we've gone over it. We've spent many hours talking about it. And I think a part of this is both a combination of my personal passion, which then met what I felt was an unmet need. And I'll talk about both, right? So while I've been in product and tech for about 20 plus years, I've also been an individual trader myself. And I started back when I was in the US more than 17 plus years ago. At that time, the intent was very clearly just to make money from the market. Obviously, as a young professional, I was hoping to make a side income from trading. For whatever reason, this just stuck. It really stuck with me. I remember my pastime or my go-to pastime used to be trading. So when people go and they would watch cricket or they would go and maybe go do something different with their free time, I would go read a book on trading, or we would go to places like Vegas in the US, and I'm sitting in the room trading while everybody's trying to get out and actually see Vegas. And I remember even actually making a few trades, making some money, and then going out and spending that money and being really excited about how this gave me this opportunity to make a little extra money on the side. And that just opened this new view that maybe the markets are something that as an individual I have access to, and I should be able to try to make the best use of it. And so that really just carried forward through my journey, through the personal journey I've gone through, my professional journey. We moved from US to India, and then of course moved from Amazon to Swiggy. And through that journey, one thing was always constant, which was trading. And now in India, I trade both the US markets and the Indian markets. And for me, that's something which I just started really feeling that I need to understand what other people around me are doing. So I started talking to a bunch of folks across Swiggy and Amazon, just curious to know what do they do with their money? How do they invest or trade? And what I realized was really there are two problems. One is access to the market, which is how do I get to buy or sell? And of course, what do I do with my money? And what I realized is access to the market is a solved problem. Almost everybody I spoke to had one or two brokerage apps in their mobile device. But then when you ask the same question to the person saying, okay, so do you know how to choose when to invest, when to exit, when to buy? Most people didn't really understand that. So I felt that here's a passion. But it also seems like there's a common shared passion with a large number of people in India. Everybody seems very eager, excited about the market. But at the same time, the unmet need was that they really weren't able to figure out, do I really understand the market? Am I able to actually make the most informed financial decision with my money? And then in Jan 23, the SEBI report came out, which talked about FNO traders and how 90+% of people are losing their money. And so that really solidified it for me that, anecdotally talking to people, I realized there is a need. And the SEBI paper definitely shows that the data is very clear that most people are losing money. So those two things came together. So I felt that while we have a ton of apps out there, I felt that there's still space for an app that is really focused on helping customers make the best form of informed financial decisions and really help them become successful in their journey.
No, makes sense. And I remember a variant of the same conversation like 2 years ago. And it's amazing that how that ethos is still the same.
It's consistent, I hope. I mean, it's not something that it sounds different from what we talked 2 years back.
No, I think that articulation only gotten stronger for me. And I remember this report, like we were also, all of us knew to some extent that retail was losing money, but just the extent of it to say almost 90% plus people lose money is quite a staggering figure.
Yeah. And I think for me, it almost had a completely opposite effect because most people look at the report and said, trading is bad, 90% people are losing money, thou shall not trade, right? And so there was a time where I think everybody who was trading was looked at as maybe a gambler or someone who's irresponsible with their money. And having been somebody who's been trading for such a long time, I felt the completely opposite, that it seems like, it actually points to a gap where people need help. People need a tool that can help them become better in their craft. And rather than making them feel like they are irresponsible, how do you help them become successful? And so we took the stand saying we want to help the trader. We want to really be there for them so that person who is passionate about trying to figure this out can get the support from Sahi.
Oh, phenomenal. And then let's say we've taken the last year and a half to work with that vision and build that product out. Now that product is out, being used by at least 100K odd people. What to you is that aha moment today when someone opens Sahi? What makes the trader go, okay, someone gets me, someone is out here to help me. They're not just providing me a execution engine, but it's a lot more. What are those aha moments you've seen?
Yeah, I think with Sahi, starting with the team itself, almost everybody in the team is a trader.
Oh, really? Okay.
Even my co-founder has been, in fact, trading professionally for many years now. And so all of us have that learned experience of what it takes to be a trader in terms of how do you discover a trade, how do you execute a trade, and then of course how do you
check their P&L before you make the offer?
Yeah. Not so much. But I think the passion was there, and then what that translated to was when we started thinking about how to build Sahi, we said we wanted to definitely not be the next broking app that's already out there, because there are maybe 50 plus broking apps which have a very similar experience. We definitely did not want to be the next one that was a replica of that. So we said, let's take a different approach to this. Let's just look at the journey that a user goes when they actually go for a trade, right? And so we said, let's focus on, for example, the option trader. And as an option trader, what are the steps that you follow from the time you decide that you want to make a trade till the time you find the trade and you execute it, and then you manage it until you exit. And that's the difference with Sahi versus the other apps out there. We've built journeys that are optimized for these flows. So, for example, if you come on the app, the first thing that you have as a trader is, where is the market? Because before I can even decide whether I should be bullish or bearish, I need to know if the market is positioned that way. So we've built this market analysis tool that takes in a lot of different data from different sources, puts it all together into a single simple and easy to consume widget, where now it tells you based on different indicators and data points whether the market is bullish, bearish, or sideways. That really helps set the user's mindset in terms of how they want to now trade for the rest of the day. And the cool thing is we built it to be real time, which means it updates every 5 minutes. Because we know as traders that the market can change direction through the day. You start bullish and then suddenly there is some news and it switches. So there's no point having like a bullish view while the market has suddenly switched. So this analysis tool also reacts to real-time market data and changes direction. And then once you see that direction, then you go into this single screen trading experience where we've built all the information you need in a single screen. That's the second aha that a user has, because what we realize is while you are in the act of trading, you have to switch multiple screens. You're moving between your charts, then you go to maybe looking at your orders, then you place the order, then you go to your positions, you look at the P&L, then if your P&L is moving, you go back to the charts, and then sometimes you have to go to the index charts. And so you're just bouncing between different screens while you are trying to make that trade.
And some of them are not even native experiences at other brokers, right?
Yeah. And so it's a lot of work, to be honest. It's just work. And as it is, trading is hard. You're trying to keep up with a market that is moving fast. And now you also have to deal with a tool that is not keeping up with you. Right. So what we realize is while just watching these traders operate, we realize is there's a lot of break in the way they have to trade, because they have to also remember to keep switching while they're trying to focus on the trade. And so we built this single screen trading experience, which is a really popular product on Sahi right now, where using the charts that we have, you can see all the information you need. You can, for the first time ever, you can see both the index chart and the option chart on the same screen. We have this innovative slider that we have built where you can slide between both the charts. And then you can also see information like the option chain. You can switch between calls and puts if you decide. You can see your positions, your orders. And most importantly, you can just tap on the chart and you can trade right from there and go on to then set your stop loss. We have some features like automatic trailing stop loss, which automate the risk management. So a bunch of these features have all been built into the single screen. So for a user who is really trying to focus on the market, you can both analyze and execute from that same screen. That for us, I think, is the second big aha that we have seen. And the idea is to continue this, to look at all the other cohorts, strategy traders, stock traders, people who are doing long-term investing, and eventually focus on anybody who wants to manage their own money, be it intraday trading or be it planning for your retirement. How do we help them give these aha moments to each of these traders?
No, quite phenomenal, because when I look at Sahi versus most of the other 50, 60 other broker apps out there, it really feels customer backwards reimagined, right? It is not saying this is how it's been done, let me do it the same way, but let me really think what is the right way to do this, which really helps the customer. So all these features are great, Dale, but let's go back to your vision. Does all of this really lead to better trader success?
Yeah, it's very early days. I mean, if you go back to the source of where Sahi began, one of the inputs was the SEBI report. And there, as we know, 91% of traders, individual traders, are losing money over the course of 1 year period. It's very exciting to see that already we're seeing this early signs where people are able to take more informed decisions. People are able to manage their positions better. People are able to apply risk controls like stop loss very easily. And all of these are helping the traders actually maybe get better in their P&L. And so we believe that with the better tools, better insights, and product capabilities, people can become better investors, better traders. And that's really where we want to keep pushing. And our mission is to help the eventual investor become more successful in their journey. So for us, when they do well, we do well. And that's really what drives us every day.
No, and I've seen you really live this North Star, right? Like, I think you think about it, you bring it up in meetings. So I think with that focus, hopefully this only compounds more from here.
Yeah, it's actually, I keep telling my team that finally you're building it for me, because I'm the super user of the platform. I probably trade a lot. And the cool thing about Sahi is that whenever I have an idea that would help me in my trading, I can just walk over to my engineers. And then within a day or within a week, we have those features live. So
now I know the real reason you're building.
Yeah, it's like, if nothing else, there'll be at least one user running on this platform.
No, super. See, the other moniker which has evolved for us over time, and I really like how this has evolved, and maybe talk us through that, is high performance trading. Yeah. I know we didn't start off with this sort of way to describe ourselves, but it's something that's organically evolved as we have seen how users use our product, how our products evolved. Yeah. So talk me through more the journey of what this is, break this term for me, and we can go deeper.
Yeah. I think this has been one of those things where even I've probably learned along the way. And we had this conversation early on. when I started, I was literally looking to build it for people like me, which is somebody who's a part-time trader, somebody who has a full-time job and is trading on the side. And maybe some of that bias came from obviously me being personally incentivized to build something that I would love. But along the way, what we realized is that there is like pretty much there's a spectrum of traders in the market. There are people who are new to the market, all the way to people who are doing this for a day living. So you've got maybe on a scale of 1 to 5, somebody would be a 1 if they are new to market, and then somebody would be a 5 if they are essentially completely automating their trading and using that to run their livelihood. And so what we realized is that we really want to focus on people who are serious in their craft, because there are a number of people who look at the market as maybe this is a quick way to make some money. And unfortunately, they are the ones who are also struggling to make money. And what we realized that we don't really want to be a platform where we're trying to oversell the market. We don't want to be this platform where we want to make it sound like there's easy money to be got here and you can just pick money off the table, which is not true, right? And so we instead wanted to focus on the traders who are actively involved in trying to get better at their craft. They want to learn more. They want to process information. They really want to understand strategies, want to understand different styles of trading, and every day get better in what they do. And so as a product, we gravitated over time from being this product which was trying to maybe early on trying to solve for the part-time, the hobbyist kind of trader, to the more serious trader. And for that serious trader, really performance matters. This goes back to why does somebody trade? There are multiple reasons, but at the end of the day, people want to be successful in what they want to do. And the person who's really doing it with passion and with that effort really wants to make sure there is some return to that effort, right? And so we also realize that if we want to be successful with the customer, we have to help them become successful. And for them to become successful, the gap is that we need to provide them the professional grade capabilities in a simple and delightful customer experience. Because one of the key insights that I took away from the SEBI report, while people talked a lot about the 91% losing, it's really interesting to see where the money is going. So you say 91% is losing, so that's great. So who's getting all that money? And what the SEBI report showed was these individual traders are losing about 61,000 crores in one financial year. So in FY24, they lost 61,000 crores, excluding transaction costs. And that 61,000 crores has actually been transferred to the prop trading firms and the FPIs. And these have basically made 61,000 crores in profits. So what we're witnessing is like this massive transfer of wealth from the individual trader to the so-called professional. And I feel strongly that that's also because the tools and the platforms that these people have are very imbalanced. You're bringing a knife to a gunfight and you're hoping to compete with somebody who has the technology. And so with Sahi, one of the things that we thought we can really focus on is how do we level the playing field? How do we bring some of the professional platform capabilities to the individual, but wrap it in a experience that is convenient, easy to understand, and maybe even a little delightful. And so that's where this focus on performance came in. And the high performance really being that we want you to get the professional grade quality performance, and we want you to experience that within the Sahi product. And so it's been this a little bit of wandering, if we would have probably started with certain view, and then in fact many conversations we've had was I think we've also helped me reset some of my own biases and maybe transition more towards this serious trader and this high performance mindset.
And Dale, take me back to the time when you said, let's quit Swiggy and build Sahi. What was that moment? You've had 2 super successful stints. What made you do this third one?
Yeah, it's it was an interesting one because personally I've always looked at my career in 5-year chunks. So at Amazon, I was there for 11 years, roughly 2 5-year chunks. And in the first 5 years, I was working on global platforms. And at the second 5-year, I transitioned to leading international tech. And so similarly, when I was at Swiggy, I was coming up on my 5-year mark. And I remember there was like a December Christmas party with the team, right? And in those parties, I typically interact with a lot of the young team members. So again, they're going around asking everybody, what do you do with your money? How do you trade? How do you invest? Because I'm so eager to share my trading journey that I keep asking them to share theirs. And this message that we talked about, where people kept coming back saying, I have broking app, but I still don't know how to trade. That just kept resonating through those conversations. So just those conversations kept coming back at saying there is a need here. So when I started thinking about, okay, so if I look at the next 5 years at Swiggy, obviously it's a great company. We had the IPO coming up. So I could easily see myself working there for the next 5 years, leading the IPO and maybe taking it post that. But at the same time, I had this almost like this voice in the back saying, you got a certain time and moment where one, your passion is there for this business. You have very large and young customer base that is eagerly hoping to get some kind of tool solution. And in some sense, like this moment, if you don't do it, you're going to look back at this moment and regret, say, 20 years from now. And this is something which Jeff Bezos has talked about, this regret minimization framework. Anytime you have a hard decision, you imagine an 80-year-old version of yourself, and you ask the question saying, would that person regret not taking the decision?
If this all works out, maybe all the remaining 5-year chunks of your life.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, this is the final opus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've noticed about you is, as you describe this journey also, whenever there's I'm on the Sahi WhatsApp group, the early traders group, whenever someone says something, you're among the first to respond. You're calling the people up, you're answering customer service queries. I've seen you go fairly deep into design. It always strikes me out how all in you are into all aspect of this company building, right? Like I also know some of your recruiting processes. Like it just feels you're super deep and super all in. And we all know you've been very successful in your career so far. What drives you today? Like what makes you just wake up every day and just like there's a query on the WhatsApp group to call that user up? What makes you do that?
I think part of it is just like my wiring. To be honest, if I do something, I really want to do it well. And so for me, one part of it is because I've taken this up, I would hate for it to fail just because I didn't put in enough effort. It can fail for different reasons, obviously market, competition, there's a lot of different factors. But from an effort perspective, inputs perspective, we want to make sure that we do our best. So that's just one bit of me, which is a little bit almost like anal in trying to follow through. And my team will tell you that I keep hassling them about every single thing. Even simple things like the market updates that go out on our WhatsApp group, I may pick a certain word and send a feedback to my team saying, why have you used this word or can we do better? So I think part of it is just my little bit of my neurotic behavior, which plays out. The other part is also I truly feel very connected to these traders because many of these traders are people who, just like me, are on their own journey.
Oh, it's very nice. Like on the group, when I see someone tag you with a feature request, tag you with a bug, like it's very nice. It's
it's got
quite personal.
See how long it scales though.
No, but I think for this stage of the company, it's just the right.
It's amazing to see that, because one of the things which I would hate would be if nobody even asked anything from us. If it was, hey, great guys, don't care, that would be very bad. The fact that people are asking, the fact that people would like this next enhancement means that they are using it and they would want it to get better. So it's just very exciting to hear people having thoughts on what features would make sense and everybody trying to give us product inputs. It just feels like we have this community of people who are almost as invested in Sahi becoming successful as we are.
One of the things I really admire about our company DNA and your DNA hence is how we've taken some of the tougher choices and tougher roads. And within that, in the product, one choice which I keep speaking about a lot whenever I talk to people about Sahi is our choice to build the charts. It's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. It's not an obvious thing to do. And it's been a tough, long road to build and get something working. Like you spoke about the slider. I think the reason sometimes you don't appreciate it enough, it's not the slider which is making it so magical, is the fact that our charts can zoom in, zoom out, render fast. Like that makes that experience magical, right? And I'm sure that has so many L1, L2 effects on how the product gets built. So talk me through this specific decision and this choice, and what did it take? How did you guys think about the cost benefit? Everyone seems to use trading view charts in this industry.
Yeah. I think that was one of the hardest decisions and probably the most pivotal decisions, and we'll see how it pans out because we're still early in our journey. But when we started again thinking about the trader flow and the trader journey that the trader goes through to place a trade, what anybody who does technical analysis will tell you that they spend a lot of time on charts, and same with me and same with multiple traders who we talk to. The interesting bit is when you look at charts, and especially if you look at TradingView, it's really optimized a lot for analysis. So it's very good when you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I do patterns, and maybe how do I look at different time frames and start indicators, and they have a bunch of custom indicators. But when you look at the journey of the user, at some point the user goes from analysis to execution. And then once they go to execution, then they go into trade management post execution. So you're trying to track your P&L and adjust your trade. And typically that's where the charts experience breaks, because you do analysis here and then you have to switch to a different order form, and then you have to go to some option chain to do some kind of strategy builder. And all of this is again now the user breaking their flow as they are thinking, how do I keep switching between these screens to manage my position? And so when we thought of what would be the ideal experience, we obviously felt that having everything on one single screen is ideal. And if you look at like a professional trader, they would typically have maybe 3 different monitors. They have all the information they need on 3 different monitors. And for them, that's perfect, because at any point in time, I can see information across these 3 monitors. I don't need to switch screens. So how do you bring that experience to somebody who's not a pro, somebody who maybe has a mobile device? So what we realized was owning the charts real estate is a fundamental, I guess, requirement to do that, because unless you own the charts, you cannot control how the user experience plays out. And a lot of the existing apps have essentially given that chart experience over to TradingView, where on your mobile, when you go to charts, it loads TradingView within the mobile, which is great if you are trying to analyze. But on your mobile, if you want to take quick decisions, the information that's available is very limited, because you've got only so much space that you can play around within that mobile device, while the rest is taken up by TradingView. So for us, it just became like a fundamental reason to exist, that if somebody said, why should I even think about Sahi, the fact that you can provide single screen trading experience is the reason. And to unlock that reason, charts became a must have. So that was where we started. And I think it was a risky call, because it hasn't been done. You don't have any. I think right now there's no broker who has desktop charts, or at least maybe we are one of the few who have desktop based custom charts. We realized that if you go to a lot of the Play Store reviews, we realized that a bunch of 1-star reviews are actually on poor chart performance on other apps, especially around time to load the charts, and maybe there's also a difference between the charts and the prices and so on. So we realized that there's an opportunity here where the solutions right now are not necessarily best. And as a tech-first company, we thought it's probably the right thing for us to take that on as a challenge. It's been an interesting journey. I think we've got a great tech team, because charts is not just the UI. Charts is actually an entire system that we have built, which has both a mobile optimized charting engine, which is what you see. But then behind that, there is this layer that connects the charts to the data that we get from our exchange. And so there we are streaming real-time data. And any given day, there are almost like a few billion messages that we get from the exchange, and there could be price updates across different instruments. Yeah. So technically, as a user, if you are on your phone and you pick up any single stock or option from our servers, we are streaming to you those data in this connection that we've built, which makes it super quick, because you don't have to keep loading the page. It just automatically refreshes. And then when you go to execute, we've also built a separate order execution layer, where once you hit execute from the screen, it directly executes this in a much faster way. So the combination of the charts along with our broadcast capabilities that we built, along with the order execution layer that we built, that comes together to provide this magical experience for users, right? And so it's really a team effort. It's been a great team effort where we've just been like lucky to have some really strong engineers and strong product team and strong designers, and it's come together to really unlock this for us.
No, and that shows today in the product, right? Like just owning that core component. I think this amount of stuff we're able to pull off and experiences we're able to give is quite phenomenal. The other bold decision is pricing, right? We decided we'd do it at 10 rupees an order versus the industry now of 20 rupees.
And I got a lot of like questions.
Yeah, I mean, for me also, right? Like now, while I'm describing it as a bold decision, when you told me this the first time, it felt like an easy decision. And I personally pushed back to you a few times back in the day, and you made me a convert over time. And now I call it a bold decision. So talk to me more about it. What was the thinking behind it, and why was it not an easy decision but a bold decision?
Yeah, I think a few things. I mean, if you take the customer pain point, and again coming from me as a trader, and I've traded like thousands of trades in a given year, so I've personally seen the effect of brokerage and transaction fees on the P&L. And then if you go back to that SEBI report said that an individual trader loses up to 26,000 rupees per year on transaction costs, and 50% of that is brokerage. So if you are losing, say, 1 lakh rupees a year, you're losing an additional 26,000 as transaction fee on top of that. So you're typically losing 1.2 lakhs per year while trying to trade for the entire year. So you can imagine this double whammy that they're losing money while trading because they are trying to, again, compete with the pros here. And then second, you get hit with a high brokerage fee, which further takes away your P&L. So I think first customer backward, we realized that if we really are serious about helping people become successful, we have to solve both the problems. We have to first help you make more informed decisions. So that helps you with the trades you make. And second, we also have to help you, give you maybe a lower cost offering that can help protect some of the profits you're making. So you're not just giving it away, 50% of them to brokerage. So that was just me coming in as a pure play customer backward view on that. I think it's a bold decision because there is a lot of cost and complexity involved in running this business. And for whatever reason, it's not easy to be able to provide low cost brokerage because you have infrastructure that you have to manage. You have to have extremely high reliability. You have to have redundancy, and all of that costs money. Then you have to have compliance and operations and brokerage risk management, which is again expensive. Then you have these audits that happen to make sure that you're doing the right thing and protecting the customer. And then of course you have to also have like salaries and marketing. So when we looked at it, if you look at it from a traditional view perspective, it's actually a very hard decision because the traditional organization structure does not allow you to support 10 rupee brokerage. It's almost 50% discount. But we said that's also a place for us to potentially innovate. Rather than go off and build like a traditional industry company where we have large teams and we have a lot of headcount cost and we have a lot of marketing cost, can we actually build an AI first company here where we are leveraging the power of AI to be able to do a lot more with a lot less and use that to generate those savings to pass them on to the customer? So, and we've talked about this, and one example there was like our entire engineering team was just 10 engineers, which covered both the front end, the back end. It covers all these systems we talked about in addition to many features that we haven't covered yet. But that 10-member team built what may typically be built by maybe a much larger team in any of the other companies. And a lot of that was because they were able to leverage the power of AI. Our product managers, again, here, we were able to leverage AI for doing market research, competitive analysis, even writing PRDs. We were able to use AI for even marketing in terms of generating copy for marketing, being able to analyze our ad campaigns. So just by leveraging the power of AI across different functions, both tech and non-tech, we were able to build this entire business with a much smaller footprint. And that allows us to transfer that saving to customers in a way which actually becomes another differentiator. because now I can sustainably provide that to a customer, which means customers love us for the low cost. And from a P&L perspective, it doesn't look half as bad because we are not carrying those heavy company costs. So it just came down to rethinking how you build a company. And we were lucky that with AI and Gen AI being what it is, we're actually able to build a much smaller company versus the traditional way of building it.
So the impact on company building is quite phenomenal, Dale. But also when you think of AI and what it does to our mission, which is to help traders and investors do better, and paint like a picture for me 3-5 years out, where does AI take us and take us in that mission, and what are some baby steps we're already taking in that direction, and what is your vision?
Yeah, I'm particularly very bullish about how AI can drive better experience across the board. So if you look at the biggest challenge that a trader has or even an investor has, there are multiple of them, but you start from first as a data overload. If today, let's say you have 1 lakh rupees in your bank and you wake up in the morning and you want to invest it in the market, just figuring out which stock do you want to invest it. That itself is going to be this data overload, because there are news articles, there are fundamental analysis, screeners, technical tips that you may get from someone and some maybe XYZ company announcement that they are trying to sell you on. So there's just this overload of information. And so being able to process all this information today as a human and then making an informed choice itself is a big challenge. That's also one reason why a lot of people we talk to started trading and then they felt that the effort was too much and then they gave up because this couldn't keep up with staying on top of the market. Right. And I think that's where AI can definitely help in the short term, where really being able to process all this data and convert that into meaningful insight, which can be packaged in a way that you can understand. That's a super powerful capability. And the beautiful thing about AI is it lends itself to personalization in a very natural way. Because let's say you have 1 lakh rupees, I have 1 lakh, but our profiles are different. You may be looking for a certain, maybe moderate risk, maybe longer term investment, while I may have like this, I want it tomorrow, give me something aggressive. You may have certain biases, I like to invest in certain sectors, I may have certain biases. Today, it's one size fits all. If you open your broking app, you see the same list of stocks, you see the same list of movers, bestsellers, whatever. But in the future, you could have a personalized list that is actually incorporating your investing behavior and giving you information that is relevant to you. And that, I think, is again the next evolution, because that's where AI really starts to help users make those very personal choices on how they want to take care of their money. So for me, this entire space is ripe for disruption, because as a consumer, we are so used to consumer products for e-commerce or food delivery, which are already very personalized. But for fintech, I don't think we've gotten to that place where we have the same level of personalization. And I think that's one of the big steps forward that AI can unlock for people.
Makes sense. And there's AI in the name.
Yeah. Sahi, AI, Sahi.
No, super. And what do you wish Dale of Day Zero had known? And maybe it's also then advice for founders who are very early in that journey and thinking through.
Yeah, I think this is like everybody says this, like startups need to focus and really focus. And I had also read all these LinkedIn posts and inspirational blogs. But I think it's very easy to get caught up in trying to do a lot. Because again, on day zero, you're feeling like you have the open canvas and everything can be done. And I think, and if I were to look back, I would really say like really sharpening the ICP, which I think happened because of all the conversations we've had, and of course our other investor with on the board. The sharpening happened as a result of these incisive questions and conversations we had. But maybe if I had arrived at it on day zero, maybe it would have been a little faster. Because when I think about that journey, it also reflects in what actions you do and who you talk with. And so if you are on a certain stance saying, I want to do this, and it takes us, say, 3 months to figure out that actually we want to do this, then we've just spent 3 months wandering. And in an ideal world, I would have loved to say that I know exactly what I want to do and I've got this sharp ICP and it has to be this person, which at that time I don't think I had. So for me, it goes back to this getting really narrow. The one thing which I remember even having this own maybe self-discussion debate is before the investment decisions, the IC. The IC meeting where we were doing the seed round and I was preparing for it, I was actually almost feeling that the proposal that we have is a little too small, right? Because I was trying to in my head thinking I want to be the ex ABC, whatever big company for India. And I wanted to naturally sell that as the vision for the seed company. And I think what I learned is that having a very narrow and even a small wedge is more important. A sharp wedge is more important than having like a broad thing. That transition was something that I had to personally do, going away from selling like a big vision to say, no, we just want to build a chart. and that's all we want to build for the next 1 year. And we're okay being called the chart-based trading platform rather than this Sahi for all where we can do everything for everyone. That was a little bit of me having to also reset, saying I am a big company, done big things. Now can I just talk about a certain feature and use that to sell? So yeah, it was another interesting one of those learnings. Since we're talking about ICs and all that, how did you guys decide? You obviously talked to a bunch of potential companies in the space and for a number of such potential deals that you may have come across. How did you decide to pick Sahi? What was it about Sahi that you liked?
See, for me, when we met and we spent a bunch of time, and this was like pre-product, it was you with an idea.
Piece of paper.
Correct. So I think it spoke to 3-4 belief systems that we have at Elevation. I personally have started to really appreciate that. One was to be super customer obsessed and to really take the biggest pain point and go after that. I mean, to what you said, right? Like all of us know the trader is not being successful, but of course there is enough money being made in this market. I mean, it was one of the first few conversations where somebody said, I want to go after this problem statement and I want to really think, what can I do for that user? None of us knew what the answer was, but just that to say, I want to pick the deepest pain point. I want to go and hence speak to the user, understand their workflow, really solve for that. And we had some hypothesis on what we could do. Just that DNA really, really resonated. Like for us, that customer obsession, that customer backward thinking was something I've enjoyed in our early chats, and that's only kept compounding as we've spent more time together. Second, to the other point which you made, it feels when you're in this fairly crowded market, the place to start is to be super verticalized, to pick like a ICP, to say this is what I'm solving for them, pick a very specific sliver of their workflow and say, let me start there. And again, I think some of the ideas you had back in the day on saying mobile, this certain ICP, I think a lot of that has evolved over time. But again, that DNA to say, let me start verticalized, let me go after still the slightly more sophisticated trader was also what we felt was the only way to attack this market. And third, I think whatever said, and then finally it was you, right? Like beyond the point. There's of course softer aspects I'll talk about, but even the other thing I have personally believed now is it feels today to create really a differentiation on a broking product or an investing trading product, tech is forefront, right? Like the product has to really win. Like there is a lot of magic which has to happen at the back end, which is not seen to the user. And I couldn't think of a better person to really reimagine and really think and be very product, tech, engineering, design first in building this out. And I think that's really playing out the way our product is built. Like today, everybody sees the product, they can see for what it is, but for someone to really replicate it today, I don't think it's going to be an easy task. And that just comes from what you bring to the table. So I think it was this combination of someone who was customer obsessed, saying, I'll go after the tough problem statement. We've always loved people who said, we'll go after the toughest thing to do, and then we'll figure a way around it. And I think we're in that journey. But
interesting. So it's not been my great personality that It's wowed you with the famous wit, but yeah.
That's this podcast.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I remember we spoke and we had this almost like accelerated conversation from going from, hey, we met to, hey, we want to invest, and then one Sunday, I think you and Mridul met in Sheraton, and I think just for me it's also been like very fortunate to be I guess invested in by Elevation, where I felt like the passion that you had and maybe that just belief, which again you talked about, is the reasons why you had that belief, that just reflected also in how we were interacting. And for me, that's really something I think is most important, because at the end of the day, there's going to be like ups and downs, and you've seen all of it. And for me, it's like this journey I'm starting on. But as long as there's this belief that what we are trying to achieve is really important, and how we are trying to achieve it is actually interesting and unique, I think we'll do something. So that is where I felt like the conversation with Elevation really came through. That while it was obviously investment decision, it didn't feel like a financial decision. It felt more like two people trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And in some sense, I've always felt like even after investments, our conversations have been more like founder to founder. How would we do it versus, here's the money and see you goodbye. So that's been amazing, both with Elevation and Axel. The journey has been more of getting that support and that kind of thought sparring, the brainstorming, tossing around ideas and being able to have that honest discussion. That for me has been one of the most priceless things of this. So of course the money helps.
Lovely. Glad to hear that. I'll pull on this thread a little bit more. What advice would you have for, again, founders early in their journey, thinking through their fundraise? It could be about the fundraise process. It could be about how to pick the right investor. Any advice at all that you have sort of gleaned over the years now?
Yeah, I think the one thing which I saw in Swiggy, Sahi is still very young, but with Swiggy, I was there for 5 years and I was on the management team. So we would have monthly board meetings. So got the ringside view of seeing how investors operate for like 5 long years, every month, seeing those touch points. One of the things I realized, it's so important to have investors who really believe in you, because as founders, there'll always be good times and then there'll be not so good times. And in good times, you're going to get a lot of attention from everyone, but it's really the not so good times where you need to make sure that the investing partners are backing you up. And for me, that was something I really took away, because at Swiggy, we saw our own series of ups and downs. Right when we were doing so very well, we had COVID. And with COVID, the business completely stopped and we literally went down to zero in one day. But again, through that journey, seeing how the board reacted and how they were like really pushing the team to pivot and supporting the team and helping the management figure out alternatives. And in that same, kind of moment, we originated Instamart. So from that adversity came out this new business, which went on to become a very large category. So all of these things are where I think finding partners who can really be founder first is something so important. So for me, it's just been something that now I take as my number one criteria, more than any other thing, even in terms of the money people are offering or in terms of brand name. I feel as a founder, somebody who can stick with me would be more important. The second thing I would also say is in terms of raising money. There's it's a kind of a double-edged sword, but my preference, and we talked about it, like when we raised the seed, we took a little larger seed round. And the idea that I had then was I wanted to make sure that I gave my team enough runway to be able to get to certain milestones. And there again, as founders, there's a kind of a lot of content out there saying dilute as less as possible, hold on to your things because later on it can become amazing. And I think it's a very personal decision, which depends upon the business you are in. And I think as a founder, you have to view the cost of running the business over maybe 2.5 years, and then make that call.
Makes sense. No, I've seen you generally been intentional about fundraise and capital, which is actually quite phenomenal.
And we were like, I think, lucky that we took a little more, because if you look at what happened to the industry, even to do the process with things tapering down, if we had been super aggressive and taken less and hoping to dilute less, we would maybe be at a chance where we may be running out of capital before we get to PMF. So in some sense, I took the trade-off that it's better to give the company a bigger chance of success rather than hold on to the, I guess, equity share and hope for a future raise at a larger valuation. So it's just a personal choice that I made.
No, Dale, this has been lovely. The last question I'll leave with is, what feels like success 7-10 years out?
It's an easy one, because I tell this to my team all the time, and this is something that personally is close to me. Two things. 7-10 years out. One is being able to build a large consumer brand that has the Sahi name, in some sense a legacy that I can leave behind. That is like a big high for me. So if we can get to that place where Sahi becomes a large name and it's a household name among people who are our target customers, then that would be the first big win. The second is, frankly, for the team. I keep telling it to my team that if we do well and we are in this journey for the next 7-8 years, then the team should also see the rewards of this journey. The risk that they have taken should be matched by equally large rewards. So the second outcome that I would love to see is my team having meaningful wealth creation as a result of this. So between building a large consumer brand and having wealth creation for my team, those are the two outcomes that I would love to see.
Super.
And this is something I keep telling people. So the answer is, it sounds easy, because for me, it's just something I truly believe in.
Oh, lovely. Great note to end on. Thank you, Dale, so much for taking time.
Awesome.
This was lovely. I could have gone on for much longer, but
yeah.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.